Picture this. You're lying in bed, it's 3 a.m., and you're wide awake. The room is quiet, but your mind is loud. Thoughts start racing, tomorrow's meeting, bills you haven't paid, your uncertain career path. A strained relationship that weighs heavily on your heart. It's like your brain won't stop rehearsing the future, trying to solve everything before the sun even rises. But if you pause, something unusual starts to reveal itself. You're not just thinking about these things, you're clinging to them, depending on them. Your peace, your self-worth, your sense of meaning, all of it seems to be hanging on the outcome of these unknowns. And then a thought creeps in, slow but sharp. What if none of that determines your worth at all? And that's not even the strange part. What's truly strange is what begins to happen when you let go of needing the future to unfold exactly how you planned. Something profound shifts. You begin to notice that the people who actually accomplish a lot, people who seem grounded and centered while getting things done, aren't the ones desperately clinging to a vision. They're not attached to their goals. Their sense of self isn't wrapped up in outcomes. The best planners, they don't crumble when their plans change. The most confident people, they still face uncertainty like the rest of us, but it doesn't shake them to the core. So, what are they doing differently? This video is about flipping our entire view of goals, success, and control. It's not about doing less or caring less. It's about a different kind of motivation, one that comes from inner peace, not pressure. One that lasts because it's not built on fear. We're going to explore an idea that sounds completely upside down until it clicks. And once it does, your relationship with the future will never be the same. Let's start with something simple but powerful. When you think about your goals, what you want to achieve in your career, your health, your relationships, what do you feel in your body? Most people have never stopped to notice this. Try it now. Do you feel a wave of excitement, maybe some curiosity? Or do you feel tension, anxiety, maybe a heavy pressure in your chest, like you're already behind? If you're being honest, it's probably that second one. And there's a reason. It's because most of us aren't setting goals from a place of inspiration. We're doing it from fear. Fear that we're not enough unless we get the promotion. Fear that we're not lovable unless our body looks a certain way. Fear that we won't be safe unless we hit that financial number. So we start planning, not because we're inspired, but because we're anxious. Let's look at two ways of approaching the same goal. You want to eat healthier. In one scenario, you're doing it because you hate how you look. You want to punish your body until it becomes something you can finally accept. In the other, you're doing it because you care about your body. You want to feel good, to support your energy, to live fully. On paper, both people are eating the same meals, but one is filled with shame and pressure. The other is fueled by care and presence. And that difference is everything. Only one of these people is likely to stick with the plan, and not because they're more disciplined, but because they're not trying to escape themselves. They're moving towards something they love, not away from something they hate. This is the hidden key to all sustainable growth, and it goes deeper. Every single day, whether we realize it or not, our minds are creating a version of us that exists in the future. This future self is smarter, healthier, more successful, more loved. We look at that version and think, that's who I want to become. And that's not a bad thing. Having a vision can be motivating and grounding. But here's where it goes sideways. We start resenting our current self for not being there yet. We stop seeing ourselves as someone in progress, and instead start seeing ourselves as someone falling short. We begin to treat the present like an obstacle, something to rush through. We tell ourselves that joy will come later, when we're fitter, richer, more respected, more accomplished. But that later is an illusion. It never arrives the way we think it will, because when the future shows up, it shows up as now. That better version of you, they won't live in a magical tomorrow where stress disappears and everything is perfect. They'll live in the same present moment you're living in now, with the same kinds of thoughts, same kinds of emotions, same kinds of uncertainties. And if you haven't learned how to meet the present with presence, peace, and compassion, you'll just carry the same mental patterns into your next chapter. And that's why people who seem to have it all still feel empty. That's why hitting the goal often feels underwhelming, because it was never about the goal. It was always about how you relate to yourself during the journey. This is where it starts to shift. When you realize that the future you're chasing doesn't exist as some perfect final version of yourself, it begins to free you. Not in a careless way, but in a grounded, deeply honest way. You start to understand that the only moment you'll ever actually experience is now. The only version of yourself you can ever truly work with is who you are right now. And if you're constantly treating the present moment as a stepping stone to something else, you miss the only place real change can actually happen. Let's talk about anxiety, because this is the invisible thread running through so much of our goal setting. Anxiety doesn't come from having a plan. It comes from tying our sense of worth to whether that plan works out. You could be working on a project with full engagement, and it feels energizing, until the moment your mind starts whispering, "What if this fails?" That's the shift. Now you're no longer focused on the work. Now your identity is tangled up in the outcome. And when that happens, your motivation becomes fear-based. You stop acting with freedom and start reacting with pressure. The difference is huge. When you're planning from clarity and care, it feels creative. You're sketching ideas like an artist playing with color and form. There's room to explore, adjust, and adapt. You're fully in the moment, building towards something that matters, but you're not holding your breath hoping everything works out just right. But when you're planning from fear, every step becomes heavy. Every mistake feels like a failure of your character. You're not just aiming for a result. You're trying to outrun the shame of what happens if you don't get it. Alan Watts nailed this when he said, "No valid plans for the future can be made by those who have no capacity for living now." Why? Because if you're planning from fear, your entire blueprint is built on a foundation of lack. It's not truly about the goal, it's about trying to fix a feeling of unworthiness, and no amount of achievement can patch that hole. So we ask, why do we make our happiness so dependent on outcomes we can't fully control? And the honest answer is fear. Fear that if we let go of the pressure, we'll stop trying. Fear that if we relax even a little, we'll become lazy, unmotivated, or mediocre. But here's what's wild. The opposite actually happens. When you stop tying your happiness to outcomes, you don't give up on effort. You just stop drowning in pressure. You become more effective, not less. More disciplined, not lazier. You're not carrying the weight of your entire identity on every decision, so you think more clearly. You try new things. You bounce back faster when things don't go as planned. Because now, failure doesn't define you. It just teaches you. This shift from pressure to presence unlocks something powerful. When you stop needing your plans to go perfectly, you start becoming more fluid. You can pivot without breaking. You can notice new paths without panicking. You stop obsessing over what has to happen and start engaging with what is happening. That's when real momentum starts building. When we're desperate for something to work out, we become blind. We can't see new possibilities because we're too locked into the old ones. We miss creative solutions because they don't match the script we're clinging to. But when we're calm and present, the world opens up. We spot things others miss. We respond instead of react. That's real power. Alan Watts lived this. He didn't avoid plans or responsibilities. He gave lectures, wrote books, built a lasting body of work. But his identity wasn't chained to any of it. He didn't believe he was only valuable if his career succeeded. He acted from a place of curiosity and joy, not desperation. That's why his work still resonates today, because it came from presence, not performance. So here's the paradox. The less you need your plans to succeed, the more likely they are to work. The more relaxed your grip on the outcome, the steadier your hands while building it. That's not weakness. That's the quiet strength of someone who knows who they are, even when things are uncertain. There's another paradox we need to explore. It's this. The harder we try to eliminate uncertainty from our future, the more anxious we become. We try to control every variable, save enough money, build a perfect schedule, craft a flawless path. But the more we try to secure everything, the more fragile we feel. Because we've built our peace on the illusion of control. And the moment something deviates from the plan, everything inside us starts to shake. Real security doesn't come from predicting the future. It comes from knowing we can face it. Real confidence isn't built by eliminating risk. It's built by trusting your ability to respond to it. When you stop needing the future to be exactly how you imagined, you become flexible. You become creative. You stop breaking every time the plan shifts, and that freedom lets you take smarter risks, try bolder ideas, and move with more grace through the chaos of life. Now, let's bring it all together. Once we stop attaching our happiness to outcomes, something shifts deep inside us. The way we work, the way we eat, the way we move through the world, it changes. Not because we're doing less, but because we're finally doing things for the right reasons. We eat well not to punish our bodies or to earn self-worth, but because we value how we feel. We pursue career goals not to escape failure or chase validation, but because growth is meaningful. We save money not from fear of disaster, but from love for our future selves. From the outside, it may look like the same effort, but inside, it's a whole new experience. One is driven by anxiety, the other by presence. One burns you out, the other sustains you. And this is the secret. When the energy behind your actions shifts, the results often follow in ways you couldn't predict. Because now you're moving with clarity, not panic, with intention, not fear, with peace, not desperation. The wisdom of insecurity, as Alan Watts described it, isn't a call to passivity. It's not about throwing your hands in the air and saying nothing matters. Quite the opposite. It's about acting with full heart and clear eyes, without letting the outcome hold you hostage. When you're rooted in the present moment, you're not trying to earn the right to exist. You already know you belong. You're not hustling for worth. You're expressing who you are. That's a completely different level of power. Discipline, then, becomes an act of love, not self-punishment. You show up for yourself because it feels good to live in alignment with your values. You take care of your responsibilities, not because you're afraid of chaos, but because it honors the life you're building. You work hard not to prove anything, but because the process itself is rewarding. And when you fail, you don't collapse, you learn. Because failure doesn't shake your foundation. You're not afraid to fall because you're not climbing a ladder to prove you matter. You're just moving forward because you want to. And when you succeed, you can actually enjoy it because it's not wrapped up in your identity. It's not proof of worth. It's simply the fruit of your effort. That success doesn't own you. It serves you. And when it's time to move on to the next challenge, you can do it without fear because your value was never tied to a single win. This integration of planning and presence is the real mastery. You don't have to choose between being driven and being at peace. You can have both. You can chase big dreams without being consumed by them. You can make detailed plans and still breathe through the chaos when life ignores your blueprints. That's the beauty of holding your goals with open hands, strong, steady, but flexible. It takes incredible courage to live this way, to show up fully without demanding a guarantee, to care deeply while staying detached, to walk toward the future while staying grounded in now. But once you taste that kind of freedom, you won't want to go back, because it's not fragile. It doesn't depend on things going perfectly. It can bend without breaking. That's real resilience. And here's what's even more surprising. The moment you stop trying to control everything is often the moment everything starts flowing. Not in some magical fairy tale way, but in a real, grounded, practical way. Because you're no longer resisting reality. You're responding to it. You're not fighting uncertainty. You're learning to dance with it, and that dance becomes your strength. Alan Watts reminded us again and again, the present is the only moment that never ends. It's the only place you'll ever actually live. So when we plan, let it be from presence. When we work, let it be from peace. When we strive, let it be from love, not fear. Because in the end, the future we want is built from the energy we bring to this moment. And the most powerful thing we can do for tomorrow is to show up fully for today. If this message reached you, if it helped you breathe deeper, think clearer, or let go of something heavy, I ask you to support this channel, not just to grow our platform, but to help make these insights accessible to others who need them, who are lying awake at 3 a.m. just like you were. Share this message, subscribe, and drop a comment that says unstoppable, so I know you stayed with me until the end. Let's build a world where peace doesn't wait for the future. It begins now.